Hey guys, ViscosCalm24 here, bringing you a real quick redstone video. Today I'm going to be showing you all how to build this. It is my super compact 6x6 vault door. You can see it all closes. When I go on over to the back side, you can see it looks the exact same at the front. And when I go back on over to the front side and flick the lever again, you can see it will also all open. It's quite fast for its size, although the sides do take a little while because of how many items I had to put in these hoppers. It forces reliability because of these pressure plates here, and I'll explain those when we get into the tutorial itself. This thing is 12 blocks wide, 12 blocks tall, and 5 blocks deep. So it has a volume of 720 blocks. This is the smallest I've ever been able to make it, and I didn't even think it was possible until I used this trick right here, which I will demonstrate when we get into the explanation part, or while I'm building. So with all that, let's look at the materials you will need. You're going to need a lot of blocks of choice. This can really be any block you want. This door actually only needs exactly a stack in 16, but I would recommend getting, like, 3 stacks at least in order to build up some scaffolding and so you can position yourself for survival. Half a stack of obsidian and a full stack of observers. This is a very observer-heavy build. I mean, one fly or look around this thing and you'll see a load of observers everywhere on every corner. So, very observer-heavy build. You're going to need a lot of those. 58 sticky pistons. And 37 pistons. Some of these will be used for soft inversion, some of them for flattening. Then for your sticky blocks, you're going to need 14 of one and 8 of the other. Here I've got 14 slime and 8 honey, but you can do 14 honey and 8 slime, just so long as you position them how I show you when we get into the tutorial. For your wiring components, you're going to need 25 dust, 14 torches, 29 repeaters, 4 comparators for 4 hopper timers, and each of these hopper timers will need to have 6 items in them, 6 throwaway items. Doesn't really matter what pulse length they give or their stack size, so I've chosen dirt here. Just anything you're willing putting in your door and leaving there forever. 2 lamps, 4 targets for redirecting dust. As you can see, I use them here and here. And a toggle input. This is a lever that I'm going to use, but you can also change it to a button input, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video. Then for your entity tricks, 2 pressure plates, 1 for each armor stand. Again, they're right here, as you can see, and they're used just to get the power up to the top. So now that you've seen everything to do with this door and you know what materials you need to get, let's get into the tutorial. So to get started on this door, you're going to want to put down 2 obsidian. For reference, the obsidian will be here in your door, dead in the center on the floor. Then put down obsidian there, and there. Build down 2 blocks. Break out that one, block, dust, your 2 lamps, and you'll now no longer need lamps for the rest of the door. Then obsidian there and there. This is your input line, and it'll need to come from underneath. I'll show you how to reroute this later. And in fact, for now, if you want to, what you can do is you can get out torches and simply run out a line like this. And there you go. It is all done. So you can now just use this to toggle as your input. Put 4 sticky pistons facing up on both the front and back sides. And now to position your sticky blocks, put down 2 and 2 in pairs, sort of like this, right next to each other. 2 and 2. You can't alternate these like this. It simply won't work. It'll fall apart if you do that. They have to be in sets of 2, just like so. Put an observer running into a block, sticky piston, and a block right there. Observer, block, sticky piston, and then another observer facing in. Do this on the back side as well. And now you've actually got your double piston extenders extending and retracting. Very, very simple setup. When I give it a test, you can see they'll extend and they'll retract. Put down blocks just like so. And now we can get on to setting up the flattening, because as you can see here, they will extend, but when they retract, they'll take all these blocks with them. And so in order to get in the flattening, what we've got to do is, first of all, I'm going to reset that. Then take a 2-tick repeater from here, block up, then a block down, 4-tick repeater, put a block up here, temporary block, and then an observer facing down right in this corner. Break that out, observer facing into that block, and then another observer here. Put down a 4-tick and a 4-tick. Then from this block here, you're going to want to put a piston and then another observer just like so. Now we're going to go over to the other side, put down a 2-tick, a block up, then an observer facing down, 4-tick, observer facing towards the back of the door, running into a block. Then put a block up, down, an observer facing down and towards the middle, and then a 1-tick repeater. Get out your dust, put it on dust there and there, and we have now got it all set up to put in the slider for the flattening. So the reason that I have this weird flattening here is because while I would normally set up something that looks a little bit like this, and you've probably seen this before, where I'll have 4 pistons and each of them will push up their own blocks. I don't really have the room for that here. In order to keep this thing 12 tall, I don't have the bottom to power these things, nor the top, or the backside. I only have their sides, and that makes it so that these 2 pistons are entirely inaccessible. So in order for me to be able to get all 4 blocks pushed up without being able to power these 2 while also having pistons here, I opted for a slider. And to set it up, put down a piston, observer facing towards the middle, sticky piston, or just a piston facing up, a block, a piston facing up, an observer facing in towards this, and then a piston right there. Mirror this to the backside, piston, observer facing in towards the middle, piston facing up, a block, piston facing up, an observer facing in towards it, and then another piston right there. And so what you'll see when you flick your lever is that these will push and then push back, and when you flick it once more, there they all go. So that is actually your floor wiring entirely done. This is all you'll need for the floor. I know that in the final door itself, there are pistons in these corners here, sticky pistons, and you can place them in now if you'd like, just like so. Very, very simple. But they technically are handled by the side wiring, so while they are part of the bottom layout, your bottom wiring is completed. You can start by putting in 4 obsidian there, then 3 blocks, and your floor is done. Now we can get on to the sides. The sides are a little more involved. First, you're going to want to start off by putting down a target there and there. Crouch and place a block on top of that repeater with dust. Then put down a piston, a sticky piston, and then a piston, all facing up right here. Put an observer facing towards the front of the door on that sticky piston, and then an observer facing up. And this will later be used for the triple piston extender. But before I get onto that, there are a few things that I want to put in real quick before we actually start putting this in so they don't get messed up. Block there, block up, dust, a 1-tick, and then another 1-tick right there. Then block down, block up, and then a 1-tick repeater right here. A torch, a piston facing towards the middle, and another torch. This later on will be used to power these 3 sticky pistons right here, as you can see. But what I want to do now is quickly put in your first hopper timer for this door. And so you're going to want to get out some throwaway blocks. You can see here I'm going to be using dirt, and you can use whatever you like just so long as you have 24 total, 6 for each of your timers. Let's really quickly split this up. And now I have them all prepared in my inventory. Get out your hoppers, put a temporary block right here, and place the hopper right on top of it so it's facing in. Break out the block, crouch, and place a second hopper facing into the first one. In this hopper, you're going to want to put in your first 6 throwaway items, then get out your comparators and put a comparator detecting this one running into that piston. So this comparator will be what powers that piston, but it will also control the final retraction for your triple. Put an observer facing up, towards the front, up, and then towards this sticky piston right here. And there we go. That will control the final retraction. Now go into here, put down 3 sticky pistons, 3 sticky blocks, and 3 regular blocks. This right here is your triple on the sides. Get out obsidian, put down 3 obsidian on top just like so, like a little hat, and there we are. Put down pistons there and there, observer facing down, and then another 2 pistons, and right here a normal piston facing down right on top. So this right here is pretty much your side layout all put up together and ready to go, although you will need 1 more piston up top here for another part of the slider later on. And yeah, that is the whole thing. Now you might be wondering, how the heck does this connect to the slider? Well, you'll notice in the completed version of the door, there's a bit of a hopper clock here that's been worked into these sliders. It actually gets moved down by the sliders, and while this is really janky, this was the only thing I could think of in order to be able to get in the flattening for these, which are inaccessible. I can't repulse this pressure plate to flatten it because it will repulse the entirety of the top, which could mess it up. So this was the only way I could flatten it. And it also just simply controls the timings for these things overall, this hopper clock here. And so it's all very, very interconnected, and that's why this is so tall. And seeing as we're here, we may as well put in that hopper clock. Put an observer faced in towards this piston, then a hopper facing in towards the observer. Crouch and place a block on top of that hopper, and then a hopper facing into it. You can now remove the block. Take a comparator output from this hopper, observer facing towards the back, up, and towards the front, and then from this, take a 4-tick repeater. And that right there is the flattening all set up. And so your door is starting to come together on the sides, but it's all very disconnected. So let's actually get some of the connections in. Put a torch, a block, and a torch. Piston facing up, and then 4 sticky pistons just like so. And now we are ready to do our first entity trick. Get out an armor stand and a pressure plate. Put your armor stand here. A little L of blocks just like so. Use this to position a piston, and then power the piston somehow. It doesn't really matter how. Remove the whole setup, and then put in a pressure plate. So now when I power this, you'll notice we'll get in these 4 blocks. This piston right here isn't getting powered though, and I had to employ a weird technique to get the power in for it. You'll notice over here, there are 2 sticky pistons, where there should normally only be 1. And this is referred to usually as a fake double, where you have, or no, a fake single piston extender, where you have what looks like a double piston extender, but it only pushes 1 block. Put a torch, a block, a torch, and then an observer facing down. What this will do is make it so that when this retracts, it will get a pulse and it'll retract. And now you can see we've got our side set of blocks here pretty much all done. You can go over here, put down 3 obsidian, a block, 2 blocks, or 3 blocks even, 3, and now put in 1, 2, 3, 4 sticky pistons, a block, and a dust. You'll notice that this only will power these 3 pistons here. It won't power the top one, and this top one is connected to the top wiring. So technically part of the side layout, but part of the top wiring. Put down a block, dust, a block up, and then a repeater. This will power the second piston in your triple logic. And now you should see that your sides are pretty much all done. Now that this has been pushed into place, in this hopper right here, put in 6 throwaway items, and there we go. Over here, put a torch and an observer facing down, and then when you flick your lever, granted that I haven't forgotten anything, you should see, there we are. That is the full flattening all completed. And so why is it so slow? And that's probably what you're wondering. It took a very long time to retract, and the flattening took a decently long while after. Well, that's all because I wanted to ensure its reliability, even though this pressure plate won't always give the same output. I don't exactly know how this works, but I do know that on relog, sometimes this takes too long, and sometimes after a little while of use, it'll go super quick, and I just didn't want there to be any issues at all for you in your worlds, or for me even when I want to use it later on. And so I just threw in a bunch of delay in order to prevent that from happening, which is what these 6 items accomplish. It's very unfortunate, but that is the whole thing, and the reason that I even need to do that is because here, when this deactivates, that torch will turn on, powering the hopper, and the hopper will be in this position, just like so, as you can see. And so when this powers that hopper, the pulse will be sent through to here, powering this piston, pulsing these, right while this is trying to retract. And if these are extended while the triple is trying to retract, it won't be able to pull, because piston heads, as you can see here, piston heads are immovable, and this thing would get stuck, and your walls would be popping out. And so that's pretty much the whole issue, and that's why it's so slow. However, put in these blocks, and your wall is all completed. Now we can mirror it to the other side. Put down dust, your 2 targets, crouch, block, dust, and then 2 pistons and a sticky observer, and now let's really quickly get in everything else before we start placing in the triple. Put a block there, block up, repeater, dust, and a repeater, torch, block, and a torch. Go over to this side, put down a block right here, repeater, block up, torch, put down a block there, hopper facing into it, break out the block, crouch, hopper facing into the first, Put down your comparator, observer facing up, towards the front, up, and then towards this sticky piston right here. Put a piston facing in towards the middle of your door, your torch, block, and dust. And that should be everything that you need to put in beforehand. Just make sure you get in the 6 items into this hopper right here. And there we go. Now we can get on to the triple. Put down 1, 2, 3 sticky pistons, 1, 2, 3 sticky blocks. And also, I should probably clarify this now, just so that you can go in and fix it before things get too late. Whatever sticky block you have 14 of, use it for these triples. So here I have 14 slime blocks, therefore I'm using slime for the triples. But if you have 14 honey blocks, use the honey blocks for the triples. Because if you use, for example, the honey blocks now, while you're doing the triples and you only have 8 honey blocks, you'll actually run out of honey before you can complete them. So make sure that you are using whatever you have 14 of. It's a small thing, and you probably figured it out yourself, but I just want to make sure that in case anyone did that, fix it now while you still can. 3 blocks, 3 obsidian, and then 2 pistons, an observer facing down, a temporary block, piston facing down, and then 2 blocks up here, and another piston facing down there, just like so. There we are. Now you can get in your hopper timer again, so get out Peters, your hoppers, comparators, all that good stuff. Put an observer facing into this piston, then a hopper facing into the observer. Crouch and place a block on top of the hopper, and then a hopper facing into that block. Break it out. Put a comparator facing towards the back side of the door. Observer facing towards the back, up towards the front, and then a 4-tick repeater, just like so. And that is the top flattening setup as well. And in fact, while we're here, you can put your 6 items in now. Now we can get in our final entity trick. Pull out your armor stand and your pressure plates. Put a piston facing up there. 1, 2, 3, 4 sticky pistons, just like so. Armor stand, little L of blocks. Piston facing in. Power the piston, and then remove this setup here, and then the pressure plate. Now you can see we've got in those 4 pistons again. And now we can set up our fake single piston extender. Put the torch, block, a torch, and then get out your observers. Put an observer facing down, then block, and there we go. That is your fake single setup. Put a block down here, dust, block, and then a 1-tick repeater, and that should be your sides already. Put a torch there and an observer facing down, and I believe that is it. So while we're here, put down these 3 obsidian and give it a test flick, just to see if it'll extend. It looks as though everything's all working, and when you flick it again, it should all open. Just like so. And now you can fill in the rest of your wall. Oh, before I forget though, put down 4 sticky pistons here as well. And that right there is your sides all done. Now we can get on to the top wiring. First you're going to want to start to put down 2 blocks there, and then 4 obsidian between them. A block there, and there, there, and there. And now we can start getting ready to wire up our doubles. Get out honey blocks and your slime blocks. You should have 4 of each now. Obsidian there and there. Block up, up, dust there and there. Then put down 4 sticky pistons. Just like on the bottom, put them in pairs, side by side, just like so. Do the same thing on the back side. And then we've got our layout pretty much ready. Go over here, put down dust, and same thing over here, dust. Put repeaters down on those 2 blocks. Crouch, observers facing up on top of them. Sticky pistons facing towards the middle, and then observers facing towards the middle on their faces. Do the same thing on the other side. Crouch, observers, sticky pistons, and then observers once more. Dust, repeater, dust, and a 1-tick, and there we go. That is actually your wiring for the doubles all completed. If you flick your lever, you can see that at least the extension and also the retraction is now set up. Flattening will have to be handled later by another set of sliders. But there it all is. Put down obsidian, 1, 2, 3, 4, obsidian, Same thing on the back side. Obsidian, 1, 2, 3, 4, obsidian. Put a block up there, there, dust on those two. This will handle that sticky piston, which I mentioned later, or earlier, and now that sticky piston as well. Then over on this side, put a sticky piston facing down there. Block up, down, and then the two dust to handle it. You're also going to have sticky pistons here and here. The way that I got power to those was putting a block on top of the torch, down, and then a repeater, up, down, and then a 1-tick repeater. And so now that right there are all of your single piston extenders in the corners for the top done. The only thing we have left is the flattening slider. And so I want to start off by putting down 4 observers, each from the backs of these sticky pistons. On the front side here, you're going to want to put down a 1-tick repeater, observer facing towards the front, middle, then a piston, observer, piston facing down, block, piston facing down, observer, and then another piston right here. From this observer, you're going to want to take a 4-tick repeater, observer facing towards the front and the middle, and that is your front slider all done. You can put in the blocks. And now just to do mostly the same on the back, the only difference being instead of having the repeater here, you're going to want to put a block and then your repeater on top of that observer. Over there, piston. Over here, you're going to want to put down a block, 1-tick, observer, then a piston, observer facing towards the middle, piston facing down, block, piston facing down, and then an observer right there. That's your slider here done as well. And so, when you give your lever a flick, you can see that the door is actually all completed. There we go, that was the closing, and here is the opening. Yeah, so there's one last thing that I'm going to explain real quick. It was the technique I used that actually made this size possible for me. And so I'm going to really quickly just build out a little bit here just so I can show you. No need to copy what I'm doing. So this is a technique that I have demonstrated in a couple of other explanation videos and even a few tutorials. It is what I like to call simulated piston spitting. And so the idea behind it is that, we all know this, sticky pistons on Bedrock Edition don't spit their blocks with 1-tick pulses. You can't really do that at all. Instead, you have to have extra things to sort of force it, whether that be adding on blocks that they can't pull, sort of like this. You can see that slime got stuck to the block, obsidian blocking it off so it couldn't retract, or use this method. So what it does is effectively I power a normal piston and this sticky piston here with the observer at the exact same time. What will happen is they'll both power. This one can't extend because there's obsidian blocking it off, but this one can, and it will push up here and give power to this piston. It'll extend. There we go. See? It'll extend. While it's extended, this piston, which has been powered from the beginning, will now be able to extend, and it will push its piston head behind this sticky piston here. So by the time this one tries to retract, it'll be trying to pull a piston head, and piston heads cannot be moved. Therefore, it'll be forced to leave everything behind. And in real time, it's all very quick and efficient. Just like so. So now, let's show you all how to create a button input. So you're going to want to get out a hopper, then get out 2 droppers. And if you want to be fancy and sort of add a little bit of extra reliability to it, because these things can sometimes break for reasons that I'll explain later, get out a rail, maybe a few rails if you just want to be careful or want to add in more, and then a hopper minecart. Out a comparator, and now we are going to readjust where our input is. There we are. Now I have all the materials. So first things first, I'm going to break this out. The door will close because of that torch. That's expected. Put down a block here, a dropper facing up, and then a dropper facing towards your torch. Break this out, crouch, and place down a hopper facing into your bottom dropper, and then a comparator right here. Put down a block, and then a block, set of 2 blocks there, and then put down a rail. You might need to reposition the rail based on where you are just to force it to point into here. Then place down your minecart with a hopper and push it into place. And you'll need to build up a little bit of speed. See if I can try guiding it in a little bit better. These things can be very finicky. But there we go. And now that it's in place, put in a single throwaway item into the top dropper here, and you can see it will all close, and you can route a button input from anywhere you like right into this dropper, and it will work, toggling the input every time. So I'm going to say reroute my input to here, and that is definitely not enough signal strength. There we go. And you can see it will all close, and it will all open using the T flip-flop. The reason that I put in this hopper, minecart with a hopper here, is because sometimes this dropper will actually spit its block out so far from this hopper that it isn't able to pick it up. This is very rare, and it's only happened to me like once or twice in the past, but since then I've considered this to be sort of like a need in order to just guarantee reliability. And so, with that, you have the entire door done. I hope you all enjoyed this real quick tutorial. It was more just sort of like in case you wanted a ridiculously small 6x6 vault door. If you don't care about size and would rather have speed, there are a bunch of other ones. I would recommend Bowtie Man's 6x6 vault door. It is a very good door. But aside from that, that's all I have for you this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm ViscosComb24, and I'll see you next time.